we're gonna dive right into a end of day. Hopefully my laptop actually behaves today and doesn't start sounding like a jet engine. Alright, cool. Also, I think there's a few things I want to touch on. I think specifically on GU, right? But we'll see how it looks when we jump into it. So might as well start on the 4 hour on EJ, right? Trapped in a little bit of a range here, right? Waiting on a little bit more. Try to know it's gonna go up, it's gonna go down. Using it in how dead, you know, just normal market things, waiting for the market to pick a side. Right, so internally the 4 hour, right, we had this break of structure, we had the pullback up, touching this daily / 4 hour zone in there. Now expectation is for it to sell, alright. On the M15 to facilitate the this 4 hour to facilitate the swing run of the 4 hour, obviously the M15 had to turn bearish right there, and bearish break, and then we here, and then after the 15-minute break here, 15-minute pulls up right deep into here, and then expectation is for it to eventually break out of here, right? We are trapped within this 4 hour internal over here, so I am waiting for the sell in there. In terms of today, after we had an IPOS here, after the IPOS there, 15-minute IPOS, obviously looking for continuations on the sells. I wouldn't be looking at that. Something in here, we never got that. So, and then honestly, once we do reach like a place like the swing low, I'm no longer looking to sell anywhere in here until we break the low, right? Just in case it comes in here and then this holds, the swing low holds, and it ends up going higher, right? More especially because we are in like a little range as well. So in order to mitigate against being against the market here, I'll probably wait for a break down for the sells, and then a break above this internal high for buys. So really nothing in there. USD this morning, I was looking for sells, pretty much similar to what I was saying about Euro JPY in terms of looking for sells right at the swing low here after a pullback in, looking for sells in there. It is kind of dangerous, right? Like at this point you see this swing low does hold and it continues higher, so it is kind of dangerous. You generally want to catch your swing lows at the top of it. But in terms of 4 hour, we do have a 4 hour break of structure right there. Do have a 4 hour break of structure, and then today we end up mitigating this daily zone. Obviously yesterday or today, yesterday actually we did, there's like a daily zone in here, right? We came close to it, or we never actually went in it and then started selling off. But once it starts selling off, like the internal turns bearish, my responsibility and my outlook would be for the bearish movement to continue, right? And now in this case it shows that okay, selling at the swing low is low probability because the swing low can hold, move higher, more especially because there was a daily POI in here that was not mitigated, right? It got close to it, but it didn't mitigate. because the 4-hour zones are way higher. You do have this sort of reactionary 4-hour that does mitigate this, so I would take this as not necessarily the pivot but close to the pivot, right? The pivot would be this plus whatever is left in here, so I would also consider what is left in there, but wait for M15 minute to shift bearish before thinking about selling in there. But really, as you can see, there was really no 4-hour zone in there. 15-minute zones I wouldn't really look at. Once it's moved this far, to come back into like this tiny zone in there and let that be what holds it is crazy to even think about. So I would have never thought about that. But this morning, what I did think about here was, even though we are at the swing low line, I thought that okay, this is the pivot down here. There is no other 15-minute POI that looks good in here, so there's a possibility we may get to this POI down here. Hence also, I'm not looking or aiming to go below the swing low, right, with the thought that the swing low could hold, right? So obviously TP would be before that, and then I was looking to enter on this zone first, right? There was no valid liquidation in there, and then coming into this zone over here, I think there was valid liquidation in here. Actually was valid liquidation in here. This was supposed to be a loss, but I did not take the second trade. I don't really know why I didn't take the second one. Honestly, I don't even know why. I don't even know why. Sometimes it's just the intuition, you know. Sometimes it's the intuition that makes you lose, but other times it really do be the intuition that saves you from losses. Because you will have 5-minute sweep here, right? If we look at it the way we look at all the other ones, we have a 5-minute sweep there because this is a low, then this is a high, then we have our chalk here on the low. You have 5-minute chalk on the low, which would then make this a strong liquidation. Not the strongest of liquidations, like 55-minute sales strong liquidation. Yeah, not the strongest of liquidations, but at times they do work. Cause, or you could have taken, like, at times they do, but I guess it was just intuition on this one to not take the 5 minutes over there. Just a little bit of intuition right there. That would have been the trade and the loss. But also I think maybe another thing that would have saved me would have been targeting 5.5 would mean I'd have to target past the swing low, so I wouldn't have taken that because pro swing I do want to play 5R instead of 3.3. I think that's the change I'm gonna make. I have made it. I think it has worked out once or twice already. But this one, honestly, I think it was a little bit of intuition because I was looking for the sell in here but never in there. This just wasn't as convincing as a nice like reaction off of there, break as well, then looking for that. This just wasn't appetizing it. Now I want to touch on this. This is actually from yesterday. Yesterday I had a little bit of a dilemma in regards to what I consider internal, the internal of the internal, right? Mapping the internal on here, technically you start mapping the internal on the right hand side of the low, technically, right? So yes, you could have used this as the internal high over here, but technically you want to start mapping the internal on the right side, which is the side of this low here, right? Which would then mean this was my internal high, low, break, right? Now question is, what do I do with these much smaller moves here? Do I count these as internal as well, right? Yesterday I did count this as internal, and then this was an internal break. Then I took the sell in here, I lost. Then I lost in there. And then today, I guess using this system again, you would have had a break here, a break there, right? Internal break there. We should have led to an internal break there. And then once you had this internal break, you'd have looked for a buy in here. And there was a 5-minute liquidation in there, making this a valid buy. You'd have taken a loss, and then you would have had to say, here's another internal breakdown, and then be of strong mental capacity as well to look for the sell. To look for the sell in here, because this would have been the internal high, which would then mean this is the pivot POI, right? You had a breakout on this 4-hour, swept the liquidity up here, and then when it comes in here, there was a valid 5-minute liquidation in here, as you can see. Valid 5-minute liquidation, and then you will have taken the sell here at 1:15. Talk about iffy. So yeah, I'm looking into my mapping of this smaller part. Should I stick to the smaller mapping or stick to the bigger picture, which would be this as the bigger picture here, and then this breakout here as the bigger picture, making this internal low here actually the strong internal low right here, and then yeah, the mapping sometimes does get complicated, like in areas like this. Today though, not complicated, right? Easy to spot breakout. Even if this was your breakout or this was your breakout, this is a nice pullback, breakout there, pulls back immediately, which is a strong sign that this won't hold, and clearly it doesn't hold, and then pushed straight up higher. Yeah, I'm gonna scrutinize this a little bit more and see what I can get out of it. And then USD CAD for today, just obviously I wouldn't have been looking for buys at the swing break there. There was no good continuation, no liquidation into the continuation here, and then it just started moving sideways as well. So a little bit to figure out on how I want to map, but yeah, I need to iron this out, sort out the routine. I think April will still be a month of ironing out and sorting out and trying to be more consistent, and then lock in more and more and more and more, just getting more and more serious and more intense as time keeps moving forward. So for now, present day, not really much that I did, but I did observe, and I'm observing, looking for patterns as per usual. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. Yeah, peace.